Welcome to the 73rd episode of the interview series. The interview series is a production of One Week Critique, an Iowa-based education nonprofit that offers educational resources and editorial support to students and teachers of the literary arts. You can learn more about us and our programs or support our work by visiting our website, oneweekcritique.com. I'm Matthew Schmidt, joined today by TJ Fuller. TJ Fuller's stories have been featured in Columbia Journal, Juked, Volume 1 Brooklyn, and other journals. His work has also appeared in two anthologies, And If That Mockingbird Don't Sing, Parenting Stories Gone Speculative, and What I Thought of Ain't Funny, based on the work of Mitch Hedgeberg. Currently, he teaches composition and creative writing at Mount Hood Community College and is the faculty advisor for Perceptions Magazine, the school's magazine of the arts. His first book, a short story collection called Some Stupid Glow, is out now from Featherproof Books. Welcome, TJ.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. All right, so today we're looking at the first story from Some Stupid Glow. It's called Close Calls. And I thought I'd just start off with an overall question about the collection. So there's 22 stories in total, and most come in at 10 pages or less. So my first question is, what is it about the short that you really enjoy?
I think the my favorite ones are able to offer sort of the poem's pressure on language, the weight on every line, no wasted phrases, lots of implication, and they're able to offer the novel's messy humans, humans being stupid and awful. And I think sometimes the longer you get, like when you get into those novels, you often find yourself having to be functional with the language or, move the furniture around, as they say. And I hate that. And I get so bored with that. And so I love the pressure that the short like gives you. But I think also I feel a little stuck with it. Like I'm not starting out with a length in mind. I got an image or a mood or something, and I hit like 1,500 words and I've told the thing. And so when I was putting this collection together, I was kind of like frustrated. I was like, I would really like, that one novella at the end or that one longer story at the end. But I kept kind of reaching. I thought the best part of the stories within about 1,500 words or so. And so many of them ended up that same length.
So is there ever an idea to write a novel? Like right now that
There's
there's a
Listen, there's a
collection.
novel in the drawer, all right? When
Okay.
all the
All right.
agents watch this and they want to contact me, There's a novel in the drawer. And I had a lot of fun doing a novel in a way I did not think I would. And I tried to keep the pressure on the language, lots of short chapters. Um, yeah, so I've tried it, but it's definitely my impulse always goes towards about that 1,500 word length.
Gotcha. All right. So let's get some words in the air here.
Yeah,
I'm going to bring up the early draft of Close Calls and ask you to read just a little bit of it.
of course. Someone there would love to talk to you. I hope to get collared, chewed out, devoured. I could use the abandon. Instead, my manager will scold. She will chide or cluck. My numbers don't demand a collar. My recordings are moderate. And there is my problem, clear like the skin on my manager's nose. Moderation. I've had too much of it. My manager foils her nose with rowdy dresses, hundreds of sprung cats or bent birds. She tempers the dresses with too many cliches. Build a bridge of trust, listen to what the customer cannot say, do more with less. She stalks the cubes. I straighten my shirt. I smooth the pages of my script. Do you have time to daydream with me? That's the first scripted line. The first scripted line sits on the lips like gruel. I drivel it. Some hang up, some complain. None of them flog hard enough. We buy their numbers from shams, shell games, floating internet ads that promise college scholarships, and not just us. Within one day, 9 different online colleges will ask for them by name, will try to stoke their fantasies. I need penance. I need someone else's flagellation.
Excellent. Thank you. So the narrator, who's named Charlie, uh, feels like he's a moderate person in all aspects. and nothing about him is exciting. The funny thing to me is, right, he's not even good at being bad at things. So my first question is, how do you, what or why did you change the title to direct readers to dwell longer on Charlie's character?
Well, I think it's less warm. I think someone there would love to talk to you is about missed connection or possible connection, but it's less it's warm and I think more optimistic than close calls, which is like just missing things, just on the outside, right? I think there's a missed connection or a lacking connection in both titles, but I like the coldness of close calls better than the warmth of someone there. Would love to talk to you, which, I don't think we're going to read that section, but that is a line near the end of the story in both drafts, I believe. It's one of the last things Charlie says to a customer. Um, yeah, I think that coldness, it pushes off, which I think we'll talk about the big change in the edit, but it pushes off sort of the possibility for connection longer.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's interesting that someone there would love to talk to you as a line is and is not a cliche. Like
Hmm.
it's like it rides that, at least for me, it rides that line because it feels like something someone at a call center would say, but not mean at the same time.
Yeah.
Whereas in fact, I actually kind of believe Charlie uh, that someone there would love to talk to him because he loves to talk to Nathan,
Yeah.
who's the character he talks to on the phone all the time.
And he wants to get out of that transactional customer, employee relationship, but he can't quite get out of it.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Indeed. Yeah, so let's look at that the change here in the draft. So I'll just ask you to read the opening here of the final draft, if I can bring it up properly. Here we go.
Close calls. Do you have time to daydream with me? That is the first line of the sales script. Some days we sing it, some days we mumble. Most hang up or complain. We buy their numbers from internet ads, shams, shell games that promise college scholarships but deliver 9 different online colleges calling 6 times a day. We all want them in our for profit schools. Last month, I snagged 15 students. I congratulated them. After the misspellings and run ons in their applications made me cringe, after I showed the errors to the salespeople around me, I congratulated myself and made the soft handoff to the student loan department. Those 15 enrollments stick me right in the middle, where I was born, where I will die, buried in a refurbished casket, a high gloss finish. Ambrose and Larry, they get the lashes. Pedro, for the first time, gets to wallet the gift card and pin up the foil stamped certificate. The manager ignores me, and the bright wrinkled wolves on her dress taunt with the turn of her back.
Excellent. Thank you. So perhaps the biggest edit outside of the title is moving Charlie's need for punishment later in the story. And I think you do a masterful job with holding information that is present. One example in the story is, quote, his wife defends corporations. It's mostly reading briefs, Nathan once said. Even this late, I asked, end quote. Here we find out Nathan's wife is either spending a lot of time at work or stepping out on him, yet there isn't direct mention of this. It also withholds the conversation Nathan had with his wife in the past, including what else was said. Do you think withholding is more important for tension or for brevity?
I find that yeah, it's more important for tension, but I think it's ultimately about character, right? Well, the reason I love withholding is because I love a limited point of view. And I love a character not knowing and me as the writer not knowing. And so I can just lean into that lack of knowledge and the tension comes out of there, right? What doesn't he know? What can't he get Nathan to tell him? Or doesn't he feel like he can ask for from Nathan? It leads to brevity, but I feel like it's rooted in the character's inability to articulate.
Yeah. Why do you think you love the limited point of view?
Because I'm living it. It does. I don't know. Yeah. I just any a point of view that's much wiser feels false to me usually,
Right.
and so I think that that opportunity to sort of to let a character lean into confusion and still run wild when they're confused, right? That's a freedom a character gets that I don't maybe get in my day-to-day life. And so I like to stoke that.
Yeah. Do you think we're all out here thinking we're smarter than we are?
Oh,
And
of course.
yeah,
Yeah. I think so, and I think that yeah, we all have a limited perspective in a way that shocks us, right? I'm having an argument with somebody, and they're interpreting the event completely differently, and I'm like, I can't believe you saw it that way, And it's we don't even know what we don't know, and I think the recognizing of that limit makes for good fiction.
yeah. You know, I think I was thinking about jobs recently, and a lot of jobs these days are very like specific jobs. Like the skill is so specific that you actually either need training of some sort or you need to be in that field to really like talk fluently about that. Um, I think about that when I'm trying to fix things, where I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that is. Let me look up a YouTube video or something to help me better understand what I'm working with here. Um, do you do you think like, or have you written? I haven't read the whole book because it just came. But do you think that is a way for people to write into fiction to establish the job first and then the character afterwards?
Right, I do. I mean, isn't that a Stanley Elkin thing? I feel like that's an old Elkin thing, was like, I can't write the story until I know what the character's job is. But it's because there's so much job lingo,
Yeah.
right? And that job lingo is sort of how we build out our personality. And a lot of times, if you're talking about synergy all the time or talking about best practices, there's all this awful language that comes down to you through your work, right? But it is also how you kind of fill your day. And so, yeah, I think if you're interested in language, you are interested in jobs because so much of your day-to-day language comes from that.
All right, so let's talk about some specific language that you removed from the story. So, a couple things I noticed that left after that early draft are Judge Joe Brown
Yep.
and Big Brother, as well as Nathan's location changes from Tallahassee to Charlotte. In what ways did these edits change the tone of the story?
Well, those first two, I think, were mixing the metaphors, right? Charlie feels like talking to Nathan is like watching small claims court television in the afternoon, which it's one thing to be like, talking to you feels like that because it feels like those responsibility-free days we used to have where we were just watching small claims court, obviously pre-streaming, right? Because I only had like four options. Um, and it's another thing to say, and I hear Judge Joe Brown over the phone, which is what the line used to be, something like that. And it felt like it mixed the metaphor. And similar, the coworkers, Charlie and his coworkers joke about that the computer that listens to them on the phone is Prism Junior, like
Mhm.
the NSA software, NSA policy Prism. Um, but it also feels like Big Brother. And again, you're just like mixing the metaphors. So I think tone wise, I'm just trying to be simpler, I think, or more. Once you get that one image or that one sort of theme to just pull that through as opposed to like try a bunch of different ones. It's funny, Tallahassee to Charlotte is just because I had another story in the collection that mentioned Tallahassee, and it felt
Okay.
like too much Tallahassee. I just love the sound of that city name. It was like when in doubt, I'm like, let me do something with lots of L's and S's. And the editor was like, should we just keep mentioning Tallahassee so much? Maybe not.
Have, have you been to Tallahassee?
I have not.
Yeah. That's even better. That's even better. Yeah. No, it's interesting about the to go back to like the sound of Judge Joe Brown or Small Claims Court on TV. One of your blurbs, right, from Lindsay Hunter is quote, TJ Fuller officially had me with quote, he has a voice like sweatpants. But then when a 4-year-old directs her father to chomp, you shit, I knew this book was for me, right? So there is a different there are different registers
Hmm.
within this book, throughout this book. And how like that I feel like is sometimes really difficult for people to write dialogue. What do you have any tips on writing dialogue in general?
Uh, I think the thing I keep trying to do is just imply there's always something unstated. Bad dialogue is either there's too much exposition or there's just too much of it back and forth between characters. So I think I just always want something unstated between the line. I think I had a teacher once who said you cut every other line after you write a scene of dialogue, right? Because that does that same work. I think that implication helps best in terms of keeping energy between the line and then also keeping it realistic enough.
Nice. Yeah. I personally categorize Close Calls as satirical. Um, Perhaps the funniest and saddest idea is that being middle of the road in all things means you don't exist for anyone. Um, Prism Jr., which we just mentioned, records all the calls that Charlie and his coworkers make to potential clients. What does the human need for validation say about how AI tracks and perceives us?
Good question. I don't know about you. I treat AI like I'm allergic to it. I keep a very large distance from it, probably to like my own issues as a teacher, right? Because then I don't always catch it probably when my students are using it. Um, but my understanding is the AI that's currently popular is an AI that can't not flatter its user, right? Even up to the point of death, right? If you're saying maybe I should do this, it's saying yes, you should. Um, and I just think that just shows how bottomless we can be sometimes in terms of our need, right? In terms of like, you can just keep trying to reassure me, and I will come back tomorrow and try to get more of that reassurance.
Yeah. I have an Alexa in the house, and I recently like whispered to Alexa for some reason, and like Alexa whispered back at me and told
No,
me, "I
no,
will
thank you.
whisper to you while you whisper if you whisper to me." And I was like, "What? Why are we doing this?" I was
No,
like, "I want to have fun, but not really with you."
yeah.
I mean, oh God.
Yeah, and it's that desperation. I think it's Charlie's desperation, right? Which is like I can't connect with people. Maybe I can connect with a machine. Like let me connect with anything at all. Which is I think we're also seeing in the advent of this widespread AI usage. As I, you know, have had friends who, when some connections are broken, really turn to that machine connection.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and in the story, the breakthrough for Charlie is when he starts to care for Nathan. Soon he's calling him on his personal cell phone, and at the end of the story, lets him know he'll be coming to his town for supposed business. Um, in some respects, Charlie is still performing the job he was fired from by letting Nathan know he can call his former company's 800 number. On the other hand, Charlie wants to be, and thinks he is, the someone who loves talking to Nathan. Do you edit toward character clarity or story clarity? Are they the same thing?
They probably are functionally the same thing, like they end at the same place, but I'm definitely thinking of character clarity. I'm thinking of desire volume, right? Like I feel like most of my favorite stories is not much is not resolved in them. It's like the volume of that character wanting something just gets louder and louder and louder until it's at its kind of peak. And so I think when I'm looking through drafts later, I'm thinking, how can I intensify this desire even more here? How can I intensify it in this scene and make it more intense than the previous one?
Yeah, I like stories like that as well. And one thing I was thinking of is like, how useful would it be to do the story like that, but not have the characters' volume ramp up? Like,
Hmm.
do you think that is simply too boring? There are no stakes, there's no growth, there's no change. Um, what's your general thought on that?
I mean, I don't believe in shoulds, right? Like, let's see somebody pull it off. I'm trying to think of an example of it, though. Um, I mean, the other kind of story is the story where you realize the main character isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I really love, I think it's Daisy's Valentine is the first story in Gateskill's first collection. Which is I feel like a story where I haven't read it in years now. I don't know how much the desire ramps up, but I think my view of the character as the reader shifts enough over the course of the story that I've all of a sudden all my empathy is with the characters around that main character as
Yeah.
opposed to with the main character.
Well, one example that kind of popped up for me is In Search of Lost Time,
Hmm.
which which I have not read the whole thing. I'm not gonna lie about that. But like it's both it's both great to read and also annoying to read at the same
Hmm.
time because but it's just like you're going through the headspace of the narrator. And that's about it. Like, not a
Yeah.
whole lot happens. And yet, the writing is so good and fluid and interesting that I still enjoy it to an extent.
Yeah. Yeah, again, no shoulds, right? Like if they pull it off, obviously he pulls that off.
Right.
But like if anybody pulls that off today, you're just like, if it gives you the experience. I think
Right.
there's a lot of books that are popular now that are sort of the catalog of every perception,
Yeah.
right? Like here's a character's every perception over a couple weeks or over a couple months or something. And they take a long time for me as a reader to get into, but then once I'm immersed, like I'm in that and I'm not as worried about intensity.
Gotcha. Yep. So the phone calls that Charlie's company makes are scripted. Diction is key in getting potential collegiate clients to sign up for classes. I noticed you made a few very minor diction changes. For example, spectral shifted to abstract, and camouflage is now qualified by snipers. How do you know when a word is right, so to speak, as opposed to not quite there?
Yeah, I don't know. Do I ever know it's right? I mean, I'm gonna read this book at a reading in a month and be like, God, maybe I should have gone back to Spectral. Um, what I want is precision and musicality, right? And I want them in equal measure. And sometimes that is impossible,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes when you're talking about a house design or a car part or something, it's like impossible to choose the musical term for the sentence, and you've got to choose the precise one. But ideally, I'm trying to hit both of those things. And sometimes I get in trouble because I choose the musical one, and people are like, that's not a phrase anybody uses. Like, I don't know what you're referring to. And you're like, I know, but it sounds so good. Which is, I think, something the poet can get away with that the fiction writer's got to like press on his audience a little bit more, her audience, to be able to get away with it.
I mean, we can get away with it more, I agree. And yet, if you go too far, they're still saying the
Yeah,
same
there's still somebody saying.
thing.
It's true.
Yep, can't win. Anyway,
Yeah.
so last question is kind of a I don't know. I'd like to throw in kind of an oddball question at the end
Yeah.
for fun. So when everything is a slogan, idiom, number, or repetition, is there such a thing as uniqueness? And do we mix uniqueness up with stature? Is everything a transaction?
That's the pressure, isn't it? The pressure is to keep score. Like when I start my video interview series, if I don't give you a call and be like, come on to my series, you're gonna be like, what the hell, man? Um, but there's that. I just think there is that pressure to keep that transactional, tab with everybody. But obviously, we're trying to push away from that or get out of it. And I think speaking to the limited viewpoint, like I still want to believe in uniqueness. And it's if it's unique to me, I'm in my limited viewpoint, then I can still appreciate that uniqueness, even though for some it's not going to feel that same way.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I want to keep uniqueness. I think uniqueness is totally a real thing. I guess maybe my like hang up is we have to talk about how everyone's unique.
Yeah.
Like just forget about talking about it. Everyone
That's
just
right.
is unique. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
don't know,
No,
but
you're right. You have to turn it into a post,
right.
right? What's the unique thing that I can put on this post, to share that? And that comes to that transactional feeling too of like I've got to get something out of this time. I've got to, like, if I'm going to invest myself in this, everything has to be utile as opposed to just like enjoyable.
Indeed. All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing that's enjoyable is at least the first story in TJ's book, Some
Check
Stupid
in a
Girl.
month from now and we'll see what he
Yep,
says about the rest of it.
that's correct. So go get your copy at Featherproof. TJ, thanks so much for joining me
I
today.
really appreciate it. I love this series and I love being a part of it.
Awesome. Thanks.